Good afternoon. I'm Nathan with Residential Warranty Services and the Inspector Services Group. And as many of you know, we run an enormous call center. We have probably more clients on our call center than any other call center in the industry. We do have a lot of part-timers, so a lot of people that, they answer their own calls generally, and then when, they're on vacation or they're in an inspection, they'll let it roll over, and that's kind of what we're famous for, just making you a little bit more efficient, making sure you don't miss those calls. But here's something that we experience as a result of answering the phone for hundreds and hundreds of companies. We experience everything fast, and sometimes we experience things that are fairly unique. Today I had one, and I think that this is a good discussion for anyone, regardless of whether you have a call center, whether you use NextInspect or ISN, either one of which I would strongly recommend you do separate from your reporting system because they have better administrative features than what can be built within the reporting platforms, and it helps your business a lot. But one of the things that we had never considered until today was the buyer who switches buyer's agents very rapidly. It doesn't happen often, so let me give you the scenario. Most of the time, if somebody gets an inspection with you and then they order another inspection in, say, 2 weeks or a month, they're either an investor that you know really well, or it's a buyer where the deal fell through and they're going back to another house. And I would say I'd love to say 99%, but let's call it north of 95% of the time, they're going to go back with the exact same buyer's agent. Here's the problem. Sometimes they don't. And this morning, I got a call from an inspector. What do I do? Because all these confirmations and emails and all the communication associated with an appointment just went out to the buyer's agent that they were working with 2 weeks ago. They fired them. They didn't tell them. They went to another agent. And when an order was booked, essentially that client had a profile that had their buyer's agent listed in it, or the person who took the order, whether it was in our call center or in the inspector's office. Same scenario. They assumed, because the client calls in and said, hey, just had one with you 2 weeks ago, looking to book another. We chose a different house. They look at that last order. They make sure that everything went well. They see that, okay, we already have your information. We're going to make this very convenient for you. And they take the order and so on and so forth. They never stopped. And this particular order was from my call center. I'm actually pretty proud of them for this, because the person taking the order didn't stop and say, hey, by the way, are you still working with Bob at Remax, or did you switch agents? Because that's a really weird thing to say, isn't it? I mean, how can you say that or even confirm that they're with the same agent without the implication that they should consider moving? And that's not something that you want to promote. That's not something that you want your agents thinking about when their clients call in to book an inspection with you. So, I was thinking through this and coming up with, all right, how do we train our call center salespeople on this? How do we coach you guys in the inspection industry on how to handle this on your own calls or with your office staff members? Because you don't want them calling in and you saying, are you still working with Bob at Remax? Because the implication there is, are you still working with Bob at Remax, or did you make a decision to move to a better agent? You never know what people are going to hear. And even if you were just to confirm it, it's a little bit sloppy. Like, are you still working with Bob at Remax, or did you make a better decision? It's what people hear, and you can't stop them from hearing something that isn't said. I can say in 20 years, taking thousands of calls every single day for 20 years on various topics, miscommunication is the number one thing that creates customer service problems, creates PR issues. So here's the way that we're going to train our call center people to do it. I would recommend you do this yourself if you're taking the calls, or instruct your office staff as well. So let's say you have that client, they just had an inspection with you a month ago, a week ago, a year ago, does not matter. They're recent enough that they would still have some connection potentially with the agent that referred you in the first place. I would take the order. I would book it all the way through. You have all their information already, copy it over, and then do a confirmation, but do it the same way that the banks do it. So if you call in on a bank account, they don't say, hey, are you still at this address? Or is this still your email address? Because they kind of want you to confirm who you are, and that's for security reasons. But for us, it would be for a totally different reason. It would be for PR. So when you get to that screen, that final screen, you're confirming everything. You say, hey, can you confirm with me your agent's name? And then they'll say, well, it's Bob at RE/MAX. You say, great. That's what I show here. And, good for you. Congratulations on your new house. We'll see you Wednesday for your inspection. So that's the way you do it. You do on a recent transaction, buyer goes for another inspection. You make sure to confirm and let them say the details that you may already have in front of you and know full well. So that's your tip for the day for taking orders and not pissing off agents and not assuming, because it's kind of awkward. I mean, in this situation, you have an agent who was working with this buyer who thought they had the relationship with this buyer sewn up. One deal fell through, and they learned that they were being represented by another agent via email confirming the inspection on the house they had put an offer in on. So don't let that happen to you. This is being used as a training video in our call center as well. If you're interested in a call center scenario where we can answer your calls 24/7, even when you can't, and for as little as the cost of one inspection a month, we can do that 24/7. Just hit me with an email, nathan@nathan.tv.